Good morning, everyone. It is Friday, 11:30, and we are live here on LinkedIn. We are talking about big law burnout. I know it's a topic that is not a hot topic because people have been talking about this for years. And I wanted to share with you 5 strategies for making your work more sustainable, especially if you're approaching what you think might be burnout. We don't want you to get there. We want to see if we can adjust some things before we get there. So I'm going to jump right in because I got 5 strategies I got to share with you. I want you to take what might work for you. I want you to leave the rest. But I do want you to be open to making some adjustments. If you are listening to me now and you are saying to yourself, there's no way I could make any changes. Like, that's just not possible because I'm at a law firm and I have no control. Then either you listen to this with an open mind or you go do something else because I don't want to waste your time. Because if you're not open to doing something different, then this isn't going to be the right LinkedIn Live for you. This isn't going to be the right information for you. I would challenge you to stay. I would challenge you to be open to what you might be able to adjust and maybe tell yourself, instead of saying, this won't work for me, maybe tell yourself or ask yourself, what might work for me instead? Because saying it won't work is not going to be helpful to you. Now, before I move on, I'm Genevieve Vargas. I should have introduced myself. I am a former big law attorney and corporate executive, and I was in-house doing litigation, compliance, then moved into HR to do employee relations and leadership development. I am now an executive coach, leadership strategist, and author of the best-selling book, Your Time to Rise, which is really about how do we move forward when we're at a crossroads moment in our lives. And I work with high potential, high performing lawyers and leaders at these critical career inflection points, when they're, becoming new partners, when they're being elevated in their organizations, when they're in house, and really helping them build sustainable high performance and to lead more effectively and intentionally so that they can feel more fulfilled in their work and in their lives. So they can feel like they are in the driver's seat versus being a passenger. So we are here to talk about big law burnout because sometimes the way you've been doing stuff is no longer working for you. And you got to kind of switch it up so that it could be more sustainable for you. So in the beginning of your career, you're hungry, you're so eager, you're really motivated, you're really excited to do the thing. You finally graduated from law school, you took the bar, you survived the bar, let's be real. You survived the bar, you got your license, you worked so freaking hard in law school. Took the bar, passed the bar. You're working your tail off at a big law firm. It is hard work. I always say, what you do in a year at a law firm and other jobs takes 5 because of the sheer hours you put in. And the more hours you put in, the more practice you get, the better you get, and the more accelerated you become. Right? So in the beginning, you're excited, it's motivating, you want to hone your craft, you love being around people who are great at what they do, you want to learn from them. And then you do that for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and you now are becoming more seasoned. And now you're a new partner. And even if you're an associate, this applies to you. But even when you become a partner, the game changes a little bit. The scope of your role can change. And so what once felt motivating may not be as motivating anymore because you have a different scope of responsibility. And as you get more senior, even as an associate, the scope of your responsibility changes and your relationship to your work changes. But sometimes we miss that. right? So what I want to do today is walk through a few, again, strategies, very practical strategies that you can start using right away to make this work more sustainable, to address the kind of shift that happens as you get more senior in your career at a law firm. So I want to start by making sure you know that whatever thoughts you've had about this topic, others have had them. I know because I coach them. I know because I've been inside law firms. I know because I've delivered workshops, leadership development at law firms. So I know you are not alone. If you are someone who tells yourself, even when you wake up in the morning, you feel like I'm already behind, or you feel like you're always behind, or you say to yourself, why is this so hard now? I used to be able to handle this without a problem. Maybe you feel like I have no control over my time, or you feel like you're working nonstop and that it's never enough. Like, no matter how much you do, you can never catch up. That's the way it feels anyway, right? We're not saying that is objectively true all of the time. We're saying it's how you feel, and how you feel is always valid. Or maybe you are saying to yourself or feel like when you log off, your brain doesn't shut off, right? You're still thinking about all the things you have left to do. Or you feel like you're always on. There's never just an off button for you. And I know that because even on vacation, I remember I worked on probably every vacation I had when I was at a firm. And you accepted it as part of the job. And sure, there were days where you could be away, but you were always accessible. And so sometimes it's hard for you to feel like you can be present in different parts of your life. But what I want you to know, what I want you to know when you're struggling to make things sustainable for you and you're struggling with all of these thoughts that you're having, feeling like it's never enough, I'm always busy, I'm always on, this is really difficult. I need you to know that it's not a personal capacity issue. It is not that you can't handle it. It is not that you are weak. And that's a big word that comes up a lot, is weakness. I feel like I'm weak because I can't push through. I feel like I'm weak. I feel like they're going to think I'm weak. They're going to think I can't handle it if I can't do it the way I've always done it. And I again need you to know feelings are valid. Is that objectively true? No, because you can't prove it's true that you're weak, that you're all of a sudden this weak person. Of course you're not. You know how hard it is to go to law school, to graduate at the top of your class, because that's what's required now to go to a big law firm. You did all that, and you've come this far, and you're going to ignore all the evidence of all the hard work you've put in, how ambitious you are, how eager you are, how intelligent and brilliant you are, to say, oh, now you're all of a sudden weak and can't handle it. No, this is not a personal capacity issue. What's happened is there's a systemic issue, right? Law firms are structured in a certain way, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. Law firms are structured in a certain way, the certain kind of environment that rewards the billable hour. Every 6 minutes, you bill your time. And it is something that you cannot change overnight, and you cannot single-handedly control. You cannot single-handedly change a system overnight. You can influence parts of it over time, but you cannot have control over it and change it overnight. You have to accept that. That is the number one thing. That's like one of the first questions I ask someone when I work with them is, how do you feel about the environment? You've been in the environment for 8 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Billable hour is king. Can you accept that? That is the reality of most big law firms. Can you accept that? Okay. Doesn't mean you have to like it. Doesn't mean you have to like it. Can you accept that? Can you work within that? Answer is yes, we move on. Because the second piece to this, again, we're on parallel tracks here. Systemic, you don't have control over that, okay? But you can influence slowly. The second piece is personal agency, right? How you've learned to operate within that environment. And What might need to change for you to continue to operate in this environment in a way that is sustainable for you? That you can control. You don't get to control what other people do, what they say, how they act, how they behave, but you most certainly get to control how you respond and what you do now. You can't change the past, but you can definitely adjust how you move through and how you move forward into the future. Right? So this is about actions you can take. And I do not want anyone to get confused about what I am saying. I'm not saying that if you feel burnt out, that it's your fault. That's not what I'm saying, because there are systemic structural issues that contribute to that. But you also have agency, and I need you to recognize it and exercise it. All right. So you're going to use your agency to maybe work a little differently at this level because things have changed. You are a little bit more senior. You're not a first, second year, third year. And if you're listening to this and you are, I want you to save this. This is a replay that lives on LinkedIn. I want you to save this so you can come back to it, because this will be you in 5 years. And I want you to share it with people that you know that are a little bit more senior than you. Because right now you're still in that excitement. You're still in that high motivation realm of, you've seen some stuff, but you haven't seen enough really yet. You haven't been forced to adjust how you're working because you're not managing teams yet. You're not supervising people. You're not trying to, manage other people's work. You don't have that scope of responsibility yet. You are not charged with building a book of business. You are not typically a partner's right hand or a colleague's right hand. You're not there yet, but you will be. And so you're going to relate to this when you get there. So I mentioned that I was going to talk about the structure of law firms. I will do this very briefly because if you are at a big law firm, this is not new to you. The structure of big law rewards what makes the firm money, what makes the firm profitable. And yes, it is true that firms are not all the same in terms of, some of what they value, what they put their resources into, how they invest in their talent, how they invest in women, how they invest in attorneys of color. It is all different. That is true. But please don't be fooled. And, firm leadership will tell you this. Are you making us money? If you are not, you are, quote, underutilized, and that is not good. Partners who don't make the firm money don't stay. Back, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, even associates who were not getting a lot of work for whatever reason, it could be because the economy, there wasn't really business going around at the firm, or because they themselves weren't performing at a high level, you could be at a firm for a while and stay there and kind of fly under the radar. Nowadays, absolutely not. Firms are like, you're out because you're not making money. And firms want to make money. And I need you to understand that that is the structure. Yes. Firms are rewards based, and they need you to build client relationships. They need you to develop client relationships because that makes them money. Right? We need you to be responsive. We need you to be accessible. We need you to be efficient with the work, because I can't build a client, like 150 hours when the work should have taken 100. Right? And don't underbill your time. Don't do that. That's just a quick tip. We need world-class execution, delivery, and results. We need to make sure that we get our clients the best result possible, and that they like working with us, and that we're known for how amazing and successful we can be. Right? Why? Because the firm makes money off of that. That's a client relationship that'll stay with the firm, right? And clients, if you're in-house, you'll tell your other friends at other companies in-house, hey, I work with that firm, they're really good. I know, because I was in-house and we talk to each other. And we also talk to each other and tell each other when we don't like working with the firm. And I'm going to tell you one thing, it's never about a lack of responsiveness. I have to say that to you. It is about the quality of the work, the thought partnership, Does this person at this firm think differently? Do they have something to offer? Is their work sloppy? Those are the conversations we have. I've never had a conversation about this person didn't respond to me within 15 minutes. That's not the case. So sometimes partners, and I'm talking to you now, partners sometimes, some of you out there need to manage your time better and not create arbitrary urgency, right? With your associates or with other partners, right? We can't be doing that. Okay. But firms also make money when you take on more and you bill more. Remember, because the billable hour is king. And you learn early on to say yes to everything. Again, if you're a junior associate, this is what you're being conditioned to do. And by the way, you're going to get rewarded for it. That is the case in big law firms. You're going to get rewarded for saying yes. You're going to get rewarded for being very efficient and effective. You're going to be rewarded when your work quality is impeccable and people can rely on you, that you're going to respond to them in a timely fashion and that you're going to deliver great work. All right. Don't assume everybody does it the same way you do. I know that's not true. Don't assume it. Okay. Focus on what you are doing. But firms will reward you, get rewarded for that. You get rewarded for that accessibility and that availability and high quality work. Right. And it works until you reach this level where the scope of your responsibility expands. And at a certain point, that's where there are some changes that are made, right? To what you have to work on and who you are supervising and what you're supervising and what you're managing and what you're handling. Again, it expands, but you haven't changed the way that you are working yet because you haven't had to. You haven't had to yet. And that makes sense. And some of you may say, well, being accessible, always on, and all the things you're talking about is part of law firm life. And it's the cost of being here, and it's what I signed up for, and it is what it is. This is what the job is. Okay. All right. It's the job, but how you operate inside the job and your relationship with the job is not fixed. You can adjust how you operate within the job. And that is what we're going to talk about today. Again, we're talking about your agency. We're not talking about changing this system because you cannot control that, which is why, again, I started with, can you accept that this is the system? This is the structure. It can change over time, but organizations, just like law firms, big companies, they change at a glacial pace unless there is an external force that comes and really is the impetus for a massive change. All right. And we've seen that. And I will say no more on that. Strategy 1, let's get into them. First strategy of 5 is prioritize based on your strategic value. So, not all requests for you to work on something carry the same weight. I'm about to drop some truth bombs to you right now. All right. And I need you, as you listen to them, to think about your own situation and how they might apply to you or where you might want to try something. Okay. So, not all requests that come to you carry the same weight, even if they feel like they do in the moment, even if they all feel like this is super important. I have to handle this. I have to do this. I have to take this on. Okay. So before you say yes, I want you to consider this. Consider, who is this request coming from? And how is that person positioned in the firm? Or how is that client positioned? How important is this relationship? Is this a major institutional client? And this partner that's asking me to do this work, I'm going to be honest with you. How much influence does that partner have? How powerful is that partner? Because if the request is not coming from someone with a lot of influence and a lot of power, and you kind of feel neutral about it, you don't really want to do it, I'm not saying say no right away. I'm saying consider that as a factor in your decision on whether you take it on, especially if you have a lot of other things on your plate. And and the other things on your plate are for partners who are really influential, or partners who are developing you and giving you all these opportunities, you may not want to take the assignment or the work from this other person who doesn't have that level of influence on you or your career. The second thing to consider is visibility. How visible is the work you're going to do on this matter? And how visible is this opportunity for you? Now, I'm not saying be a visibility snob. Like, I'm not saying only do work if it'll give you recognition. Please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm saying you should care about it though, because you need to. It is one of the things that I work on with people is how do I become more visible? I try to shine the light on people that I work with, that I work alongside. I try to shine light on the associates that are on my matters, but I have a hard time becoming more visible to more senior partners, right? Yes, not all partners or clients are created equal. They are not. And we have to be honest about this. This is why these are the truth bombs I'm giving you that a lot of people don't talk about, but it's true. Because who wants to be who wants to be the partner who's like, "Oh, I guess I'm not as influential or powerful." Like, no one wants to be in that position, but it is the truth. Right? If you are a managing partner of an office, more power, more influence. They know more people. If you do great work for them, they will tell other people how fantastic you are. If someone who is not as influential but is giving you this matter and you're like, I'm not really excited about this, and you want to say no, the consequence of you saying no is less than if you said no to, for example, the managing partner of like the Boston or New York office, right? Consequences are different. Consider that. Consider that. And the third factor is opportunity, which I've touched on, right? Does this taking on this work connect to your practice area, to you getting better at something, to you growing in a new way, in a different way, or does it connect you or give you access to future opportunities? So, for example, if you want to work with this partner where, oh, he finally, like, there's an opportunity to work with this person, you've wanted to work with them for a very long time, absolutely stretch and go do it, right? If that's what you want to do, pay attention. Pay attention to the matter, the client, the partner, right? Be intentional with how you're responding to things that come across your plate and where you spend your energy and where you focus and how you approach these things. Again, you can be more intentional. I know it's difficult sometimes to take a beat because things are often moving very fast. But if you don't take a second to do that, you're going to be in reactive mode. You're going to be in the passenger seat, and it's going to be really tough to put your hands on a steering wheel and drive that car because you can't drive the car from the side. You can't drive the car from the back. You got to be in the driver's seat. All right. And part of this is also understanding and knowing where you have flexibility to say no and where you don't. And that is something that we need to always keep in mind, that sometimes when a certain level of partner or client is giving you something to do, you may not have the flexibility to say no, but you need to know who those people are. How do I know who these people are? You have to ask other people. You have to ask other partners, other associates. Have you worked with this partner? You have to get that social capital. You have to acquire that so you can know, wait, who do I really have to work for? And who can I say I'm going to pass? Right? Because partners and associates all have reputations. And you want to know what every reputation is, just like you have a reputation, right? Strategy 2, take control of how and when you respond. So I mentioned at the beginning that you have been trained. You have been trained to be responsive, accessible at all times. You've been trained that way because that is what is rewarded, especially earlier on in your career at a law firm, right? And in return, you also conditioned people to expect a fast response, a complete response, a thoughtful response. But not everything is urgent. And not everything requires an immediate, full response. All right. I'm talking about when you respond in a very thoughtful way, which requires a lot of work, right? A lot of times when you get a request, hey, can you quickly look this up for me? Hey, can you quickly handle this for me? It is not quick, it takes time. And you respond with a complete response, well thought out, well researched, instead of maybe to control your time a little bit, ask some questions, quickly acknowledge that you got the email, that you got the request, and share what the timeline is or ask, hey, when do you need this by? And say what you'll do. So sometimes you'll respond and say, hey, I'll take a look at this afternoon because you have the time for that. And so you say, hey, I'll take a look this afternoon. And they're like, okay, great, sure. And maybe they'll respond and say, hey, like I need like a complete response by 8 p.m. or something. It's great. Enter into that conversation. Or maybe you respond and say, hey, I'll come back to you tomorrow morning. And maybe that person will say, great. And maybe they'll say, I kind of needed it sooner. Communication is what's important here on both ends. If people are not communicating with you, you got to get them to communicate with you. So you ask the question and not to be scared of the question. Because when you ask the questions, better communication, better results, better relationship. Okay. And some of you may be wondering or asking, but Ivy, my clients, they all expect immediate responses. Okay, let me be really clear. There are some clients, absolutely treacherous. Absolutely. I've heard it. I've heard it. Oh, this client is just like incessant. It's just like too much all the time. I've heard it. Most clients are not like that. Also, the industry, it depends on the industry. It depends on what you're working on. If it's like a corporate deal closing by the end of the year, it's going to be rough, right? We know that. Let's be honest about that. Okay? But in most cases, you don't have clients who are thinking about receiving your work product, right? Unless again, if you're in trial, you're trying to do it, you're trying to settle something, okay, maybe it's different. But most of the time, you're not in an urgent situation at all times. You're not. And so what they want to know often, and I know this as former in-house counsel, right? What I wanted to know was, hey, did you see my email? Can you acknowledge it? And when are you going to respond to me? Right? I just want to know that you've seen it, that you're on it, that you're going to get back to me. It's very simple, within reason, right? A reasonable timeline, right? You're not becoming less responsive. You're just creating some structure around your responsiveness, right? And by the way, they're doing the same thing internally, right? They're managing multiple things at the same time. They're, when you are in-house, you're not just managing the legal group, you are an advisor and partner to the business. So you're managing across, down, up, all around. And so, a law firm and your email is not often their top priority. They're not wondering, where is that response from that person, from this law firm? They're often managing a lot of other issues and managing so many other relationships. So law firms are at the center of that. So we have to be mindful of that. And again, know who you're dealing with, know what this client likes, know their preferences, but don't assume they need immediate responses. And if you are a person managing a matter at a law firm, whether you're a senior associate or you're a partner, I'm going to beg you, please do not create, I said this before, I'm going to say it again. Please do not create arbitrary deadlines for your people. If you mismanage your time, please own that, take accountability for that, and tell your team that and say, hey, I mismanaged this. I thought we had more time, but we don't. So can you get it to me tonight? Let me tell you what that creates: respect and trust, because you're being honest about what you did that you could have done differently. And say, I'll try not to do that again. It just slipped away from me. That creates trust. And when you create trust with your team, I'm telling you, they will go into the trenches with you. Because they're like, no, man, he recognizes or she recognizes or they recognize that wasn't okay. And they recognize the impact it had on me and my schedule and all the other things I had on my plate. So I'm going to get this done. I'm going to get this done right. I'm going to do a great job. Right. So take control of how and when you respond. You have that ability. You have that ability. Strategy 3, catch yourself before you automatically say yes. This is similar to strategy 2. Okay? Not everything on your plate needs to be there. Like some of it you pick up by default, right? Some of you pick up, okay, I'll just do that. Okay, sure, sure. You're not thinking strategically about who it's coming from. You're not thinking strategically about what it is, impact on your schedule, how it could take time away from something else you're working on with someone who's more influential, or a matter you're working on that would give you more ability to grow or more challenge where you want to be challenged, right? So we have to be thinking strategically and we have to be thinking big picture. Now, some of you may be thinking, or some of you may have told yourself, well, I'm just going to take it. I'm just going to handle it. Or I don't want this to fall apart. I don't want to, give it to someone else because if they don't do a good job, it's going to be a poor reflection of me. Or maybe you think if you don't take it, it'll reflect poorly on you, right? Or maybe you say, hey, it's just easier for me to do it. Or if you don't take it on, you're thinking, okay, well, they're going to think I'm difficult or that I can't handle it. And I just don't want to deal with that. So I'm just going to take it. It's just easier, easier right now, but not later when you're overstretched and overextended, right? This pattern, we have to break this pattern. You have to interrupt this pattern of always saying yes to everything, regardless of strategy. You have to be masterful at strategy, masterful, right? So before you respond with a sure, no problem, and I know exactly what it's like to get an email and be like, oh, I really didn't need another thing on my plate. But you check your attitude and your response to your email is, of course, no problem. Smile, enthusiasm, good attitude, positive attitude. I'm here for it. But inside you're like, oh gosh, no, I didn't want to take that on. That's okay. What I want you to do is, instead of immediately saying yes, I want you to pause before responding. I want you to take your time. It doesn't mean you're delaying a response. You're not responding for 3 days. One of the biggest complaints that I hear, and I've been surprised by this because this would never fly when I was at a firm, but how many people just don't respond to emails and don't tell the person, hey, I'm working on it. Not even an FY, I'm working on it. Don't do that. You have to say something, right? Say something. Don't delay the response, but give yourself a moment to decide versus saying yes by default, right? You want to make sure that you are being intentional about what you're taking on. Fourth strategy. I would say out of all of these strategies, number 4 and 5 are some of the most important that can take more time to experiment with. And they are probably the most impactful. So strategy 4 is about developing your team. Why do we want to develop people that are doing work with us? Why? We want to make them better. Yes. We want to grow them as lawyers. Yes. Build the future leadership pipeline. Yes. But you know what else? You want to give yourself some time back. You want to give yourself some more capacity to do other things that only you can do, like develop client relationships, like, oh my gosh, take a walk for 20 minutes, go have lunch with someone, go have dinner. All right. You want to be developing while you delegate. We should not be delegating without also developing. All right. Delegation without development creates more frustration, more agitation, and it creates more work for you. Okay. If you don't take the time to develop someone, then you're going to feel the consequences of that, and they're not going to be positive. Right. So you want to shift from sending the work, like assigning the work and fixing the work, right? A lot of it is you redo a lot of the work sometimes if you're not coaching and developing, but you want to switch from just giving it to developing how people think and how they execute so you can build their own capacity to do better work for you the next time you give them something, right? So, how do we start to do that? And I can give you just a few tips that will help. But there are so many, but here's just a few to get you started or to, think about how you might do this. Is being very clear when you give something to someone. Be very clear about what great looks like. Be very clear about what excellence looks like. If you have a template, give it to them. If you have a great example, give it to them. If you have a template email, how the client likes to do email correspondence, the partner, whatever it is, give them the example. Find it. It will eliminate and reduce how many edits you have to do later. I promise you that. But you have to give them a guide and tell them, here are my standards. Here is how I operate, right? Ask for what they're thinking. Ask them, how are you thinking of approaching this? And then have them adjust it, saying, okay, well, here's how I would do it. Here's how I would make this call. Here is what I would prioritize, because you're trying to shorten their learning curve. And if you shorten their learning curve, guess who it helps? Them and you. It helps you. Again, time is money at law firms. It's so valuable to you, right? And then there's also this piece of when someone gives you their work product, or you're in a client call and they say something and you kind of cringe and we're like, oh, that wasn't really what we wanted to share, or that wasn't really right. You need to give real-time feedback, not on the call, right after the call, right? When you get the work product and you look at it and it's not what you had expected, it is not up to par with what you needed them to do, then you have to ask them to come see you or get on the Zoom call and give them real-time feedback. Not 6 months later. 6 months later is too late, it's too stale. You've missed the opportunity, okay? You wanna give the real-time feedback that helps them improve for the next time. Again, so you don't have to do all the work again with them, right? And over time, they get better and they do better work for you. And then you can tell, hey, I've given the feedback, I've done my part. I've tried to tell them what good looks like. I've engaged them in conversation about how they're thinking about this, how they're approaching this. I've shared how I would approach this. I've shared templates. I've done all these things. This person's not improving. Okay. Then you can say you've done your part, right? And then maybe you don't work with that person again. That's fine. But at least take that initiative, be a leader, and try to do that for someone. Again, it also benefits you. It's mutually beneficial to do this, right? Now, I know some of you may be thinking, because I've heard this many times, that I don't have time. I don't have time to sit down with someone and ask them about how they're thinking about something. I just need them to do it. I just need them to get it off my plate and do it, and I'll look at it later. And that is like the opposite of strategic. That is extremely reactive, and it's very short-term thinking. Okay? Because you're already paying for it. You're already paying the price for not helping that person improve and not developing that person, right? You're paying the price because you're limiting the leadership pipeline. You're limiting the lawyer pipeline. You're limiting business growth in the long term for the firm, right? And you're also hurting yourself because you have to go back in and continuously redo work, revise work. You can't fully trust someone to give you what you want, right? So it's like, what cost do you want to bear more, right? Because you don't want to always be stepping in and fixing, redoing, and then everything is still on your plate. You want to be able to trust someone to take something off your plate, you get it back, and you're like, you know what, this is great. I can work with this, right? And I'm going to tell you something. One of the biggest reasons I see for people who leave firms is they feel like they're not being developed or invested in. And that is not a structural thing. That is that people are not developing and investing in them. Think about yourself. Think about when you felt valued and appreciated. You're going to likely think of someone who took an interest in you, took you under their wing to help you get better, who gave you honest feedback, or who gave you access to different opportunities that you may not otherwise have had access to. Everybody wants that. It doesn't matter if you're at a firm or if you're at a company. Okay, I did employee relations and leadership development at a very fast-paced biotech. Okay, and let me tell you, even there, whether it was in-house or in HR, employees, they want to feel valued, respected, and appreciated. They want to be treated fairly. They wanted to be treated with equity. But God, they just wanted to be valued and seen. I want you to see my value. I want you to develop me. And law firm partners and associates, the same. I feel like I'm not being developed. I feel like I'm just off in the wind and I'm not being invested in. And so, what's the point of staying here if they don't value me and appreciate me? And I know by how I'm treated, right? And so, if you do right by your team, if you help develop people and you show them through that you appreciate their hard work, people are working really hard. And sometimes we got to say thank you. And we have to appreciate that hard work that they are giving to us at midnight, at 1 a.m., at 2 a.m., because sometimes that's what you got to do, right? But if you do that for them, they will do right by you. What does that mean? Oh, shoot, something urgent came in. It's 11 p.m. I got a text. Ooh, I got a text or call this person because I need their help to help me manage this. And that person won't roll their eyes when they get that phone call. They'll be like, hey, what's up? What do you need me to do? Got it. Done. Because you built a relationship based on trust and based on mutual respect. And you're investing in developing that person, and that person will show up for you. That's how we create really high performing teams. And that's also how you get your time back, because you also are creating the capacity for someone else to be excellent. So the redo of the work is not as big next time, right? The revising you have to do of the work, not as big. And maybe that person could even handle the client call. Maybe the person can take the lead because you've seen their growth and you trust them. And they like that you trust them. They are thankful that you trust them, that you think they're that excellent, that you would trust them with something so important, right? It is critical for you to understand not just how to manage yourself, but how to manage other people and develop them. Not just delegate work to them, but really develop their capacity. Again, it is a mutual beneficial thing to do. Last strategy, boundaries. Oh, I know some of you are like, what do you mean boundaries? What do you mean? Boundaries don't really work in big law. Aha. No, they absolutely can. I've seen it many, many times. But we have to set boundaries that work in real life. Right? Most people approach boundaries in a way that does not hold up in a law firm environment, right? Because you're maybe you're like scrolling on LinkedIn or Instagram and you're like, just trying to protect my peace, or you're looking at all the boundaries advice that is not going to work in a specific kind of environment, right? Some people will set these rigid rules that's actually sound like it might be nice, but it doesn't match the job. It doesn't match the job that you're actually in, or some people just don't have boundaries at all. And so what we want to do is we want to make this simple. So let me simply define boundaries for you. Boundaries are limits you set around things that are really important to you. They are limits you set to protect the things that are most important to you. You might tell me, okay, well, what does that actually mean? Well, let's talk about what it looks like in practice. You are going to focus on 2 to 3 things. And if you're really starting fresh, one thing. One thing. You're going to focus on one thing or person that matters most to you in this season of your life or your career, and you're going to protect it. You're going to protect that person, your relationship with that person, and it could be yourself. It could be, hey, I got to work on the relationship with myself. I got to take care of myself. I got to take care of my health. That's a great way. That's a great start, right? You're going to focus on one thing, one person that matters most to you right now, and protect it or that person more often than not. Hear me, more often than not. I say if you can protect it 60% of the time, you're winning. You are winning. All right. Don't fall for the all or nothing mindset. I know it. I'm a recovering all or nothing mindset person myself, right? If it's not all out, I'm done. It's not worth it. I'm not doing it, because this constant renegotiation is more difficult for your mind to manage, because you want it to be 100% or just like, I'm not doing it. Because living in the middle and being in kind of an ambiguity can be uncomfortable, but it's actually healthier for you to be able to be flexible in this way because it's more realistic, right? So here are some examples. Maybe you decide, again, everyone is going to approach this differently, and it will have different priorities and different ways that they will action their priorities each week. Okay. But here are some examples of things you could be doing that would be protecting certain things like your time, family time, your physical health. So one is maybe you decide or you commit to dinner with your family twice a week. All of these examples are real examples from clients who are partners at law firms or senior associates at law firms. Okay. So dinner with family twice a week. By the way, you can always increase it, but you want to start small, and you want to start with something that you know is doable. It might still be a little bit of a stretch and a challenge. It might be uncomfortable to try. You might feel some resistance when you start to do it, or you go for it, but it's something you feel like you could do. Okay. So maybe it's dinner with family twice a week. Maybe it's you committing to not checking your email, or at least not responding fully to emails before 6 a.m. For some of you, you're like, oh gosh, that's early. Maybe it's 7, whatever works for you. But pick something if this is the boundary you want to choose. Maybe it's exercise. Hey, I'm going to commit to focusing on my physical health, which also helps with your emotional and mental health and your well-being, right? I'm going to exercise 3 times a week, and I'm going to commit. It's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Or I'm going to say 3 times a week, and every Sunday I'm going to look at my calendar and decide based on my workload and my schedule of meetings and appointments, whatever I have, I'm going to pick the 3 days that I'm going to exercise. It could be 20 minutes. It could be an hour. Please don't underestimate the power of a 15-minute workout. Don't. Because how about this? If you were to right now have only 5 minutes to work out, and I'm not a personal trainer, but I will tell you this. Go ahead and try a 2-minute plank on your elbows. Do 20 push-ups and do 50 squats, 5 minutes, and tell me you're not gassed by the end of that. Of course you are. It's like HIIT training at its finest, right? Don't underestimate the power of a 5-minute workout. Don't fall into that all or nothing mindset of it has to be an hour or it's not worth it. That's not true. There's still benefit. 1 minute is better than 0 minutes of exercise, right? 5 minutes of getting outside in nature, letting the sun hit your face. 5 minutes is better than 0. Okay. Another example could be, I'm not going to check my email at dinner. Now, you may say, okay, every night at dinner, maybe I have to ease into that. Maybe I'll say, okay, 3 times a week at dinner, when I'm having dinner, I'm not going to check my email. Dinner maybe is an hour. So maybe you feel like I could do that, right? Here's what I'm trying to make you see is that we want to make it doable, but maybe it is a little bit of a stretch, but you won't know until you try it. And that's what this is about, experimentation. So you can adjust how you are operating so you feel more satisfied and your work feels more sustainable to you. Right. And if any of your boundaries involve limiting of emails, of meetings, of accessibility, you do want to make sure you are communicating with people about how to reach you if something is an emergency. When you do that, I'm going to give you a little secret. I'm going to share a secret. When you tell someone, hey, I have this event I have to go to. I have this thing I'm going to be away from my phone or my laptop for a bit. If anything comes up that is urgent, please call me. Do you know what that person's going to do before they call you? They're likely, not always, there are people who will call you no matter what, but they will likely check themselves and ask themselves, is this really urgent? Like, should I really call this person? Is this urgent? They will likely not call unless it really is urgent. Okay, I'm not saying it always will happen, but there's another little factor they consider. Because for some reason, people are very hesitant to call these days, right? They rather email with the red exclamation point. Please don't overuse that red exclamation point. That's just not a good move. You create a lot of unnecessary stress for people when you constantly are sending the red exclamation point. There should be a rule. You only use it if it's really urgent. But use that communication to your advantage, right? You want to make sure you're communicating, that you are available if it is urgent when you have a conflict and you know you're going to be away from your phone or from your email for a certain period of time. All right. What I want you to see and consider is that boundaries can work, but they are highly personalized. So, what works for someone else may not work for you. So, comparing yourself and looking to the left and to the right and behind you is not going to be that helpful. Now, if you see someone who you feel like they look happy all the time, they look like they're really satisfied. They seem like they're doing it the way that I might want to do it. Yes, be inspired. Ask them, "Hey, how do you manage like doing all of this? What do you do?" Get ideas. That's okay. But understand they may not work the same way for you, but try that. Experiment with it and see how it might work for you. This is not about controlling everything. This is not about saying to people via email, so I'm establishing a new boundary with my work hours. That's not going to be a good look for you. You're just going to do it and you're going to see what happens when you do. Okay. And you're going to see how that feels and say, okay, that wasn't so bad. I could try that again, or maybe I'll adjust and do it this way. This is why you want to experiment. And if you don't try it differently or adjust, you're never going to know. You're never going to know what could work for you until you try it. Okay. And I want you to be very mindful of that all or nothing mindset. Don't go in and be like, okay, I'm going to set 5 boundaries. Try one first, see how it works. And when you can really get good at that, again, more often than not, for 60 to 90 days, then you can add something else. Make it doable for yourself, right? This shouldn't be stressful for you. This should be an experimentation. It should be an experiment for you. Okay. Here is what the shift is. If you think about all of those strategies I've just shared, okay, at a certain point, this is not about, can you handle it? Are you strong enough to handle it? Can you do the work? Can you hack it? Oh gosh, you know how many times I've heard that? They're going to think I can't hack it. It's not about that. And people are not thinking about you in that way. Let me explain this to you. People have their own issues, their own problems, their own insecurities, right? People aren't thinking about you as much as you think they're thinking about you. They're just not. Okay. The issue isn't whether, you can't handle the work. Of course you could. Of course you can. It's whether the way you are handling it is something you can sustain over time. Okay. So, what does that mean? Let's summarize these strategies. You're going to be more deliberate about what you prioritize and how you prioritize and the factors you consider when you're prioritizing, right? You're going to be more intentional and thoughtful about how you respond to requests, to emails, right? You're going to be more selective about what you take on and how you do it. And you are gradually going to help build your team's capacity, not just to help them grow and improve and get better for the benefit of you and the firm and other people that person will work with, but to get some of your time back. Okay. Now, the key is that you don't need to do all of this at once. I don't want you to try every strategy all at once. It's too overwhelming. Your brain will shut that down very quickly because it will get confused and it'll say, this is too much change, can't handle it, I'm uncomfortable. It'll revert. Don't try everything at once. Pick one strategy. Pick one thing. If you say, hey, I really want to work on developing my team. All right. Take the last assignment someone did for you that you thought didn't go as well and reach out to them and say, hey, let's talk about this. Let's go through it. I want to talk to you about why I made these edits so that, next time we can be more aligned. One thing you can do. That conversation takes 10 minutes. You can do that. So pick one strategy and one step from a strategy and start there. We want to start small and we build on that. Okay. And the other piece, and maybe the last piece I will leave you with, and this is important for you, especially if you feel like, I really don't know if I could even make any of these changes. I feel like just the environment is not sustainable for me. Especially if you're in that headspace. I need you to think about, why do you still want to be at your firm? What is the reason you are there? Why do you want to be there? And if you don't want to be there anymore and you feel like, I want to do something else and I want to explore something else, that's okay. But I want you to make sure that you're moving towards something else and you're not running away from a situation that you might be able to adjust if you operate a little bit differently. And maybe you don't want to try that. And that's okay too. But we want to be honest about that. Be honest and say, you know what? I don't want to try anything different. Like, I think this chapter is over. That's all good. But you want to be really clear about what you want and why you want it and why that's important to you. Okay? Any questions? I'll stay on for a few minutes. Any questions you have for me? Adrian says, being accessible can be done with limits that work for you. It looks different for everyone, and that's okay. Absolutely. It can feel impossible to decide when you're early in your career, but it's a must to ask with elegance. Yes. We always have to be communicating. Don't assume. We don't want to assume what someone is thinking. We want to ask the question. And I'm telling you, if you ask the question, people will appreciate that because maybe they just didn't think to share the information with you. But when you ask, they say, oh, right, I forgot. I got to let you know. What is the timeline? When do I actually need it? Any other questions? We're at 12:30. No other questions. Or else I can't see them on my screen. Okay. It is 12:30. I hope this was illuminating for you, and I hope that you action this information. This is the work that I do with clients. This is why I love what I do. I've had clients who stay at firms and remain partners and find a way to make it more sustainable, and they really enjoy what they do. And associates who stay make partner, or associates who stay and are still on track for a partner, and they found a way to make it work. And then I've had others who say, you know what, this isn't the right environment for me. I can't accept this structure. I can't accept what it rewards. So then we work on a strategic exit that is much more about intentionality and what you want to move towards, what the goal is moving forward versus what you're escaping. And sometimes that strategic exit takes time because when you're intentional, you got to think more about what you're doing and why. And that can take 6 months, a year and a half, 2 years. It depends on everyone's situation. It's really about how you choose to stay in an intentional and strategic way, or how you decide to leave, again, in an intentional and strategic way. It is possible. I want you to know that I've seen it time and time again, and it is possible for you as well. Have a great Friday. Have a great weekend, and I will see you next time.